Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 8, the penultimate episode of Season 1 of HBO's The Last of Us, entitled When We Are in Need. I think this title refers to how people react when their backs are up against the wall. You know, in this episode, we learned that when David's community, David is a character we meet in this episode, when his community was in need, he stepped up to be the leader that they needed. He said they needed a father, some guidance. He had to make the tough decisions, like deciding when to start eating motherfuckers. Like, these are things that he felt this community needed, and he was willing to step up and fill that role, fill those massive shoes of the person who determines when it's time to start eating people. I want to pose this question to you guys. Do you think that David is just like a full-on scammer? Like, do you think that like he genuinely like wants to help, or he wanted to help and just kind of evolved into this? Or do you think that he's been kind of like on some cult, I'm gonna be a cult leader, I'm gonna get all these people under my thumb intentionally this whole time? He's just kind of a scammer because he said he was a teacher before, which I mean would indicate that he's at least kind of smart, right? He did enough schooling in order to school other people, and then he found God. After the pandemic started? Nah, buddy. You found opportunity. That's what you found. But that gave very big, like, I saw an opportunity to take advantage of people's needs in their desires to believe in a higher power. I saw that and I took advantage of that. And, controlling people is big business in religion. So, I don't know. I just wanted to know if you guys thought that this whole thing was a scam and he's been kind of like working these people the whole time, or if he actually had genuine good purpose originally, and still maybe even he still believes that he's doing. I don't know how you can believe he's doing good, but maybe he still believes that he's doing the right thing or what's necessary. Back to the episode title real quick. Look at how Ellie and Joel acted when the other was in need. Talking about, again, when we are in need. Look at how the stark contrast between how they reacted versus David, who saw an opportunity to rule over people, whereas conversely with Ellie and Joel, we see their burgeoning father-daughter relationship just kind of fuel them to help the other person when the other person is in need. Like, look at everything Ellie has done for Joel in his time of need since he got stabbed. Getting him safely to that house, sewing up his wound, hunting, making the deal to get the medicine, leading the bad guys away. So then when Ellie was in need, Joel turned into the fucking Terminator. And you know what's interesting about this? I wanted to not buy him being able to get up from that mattress after she gave him that knife to stab that guy. But again, think of the episode title, right? Think of the adrenaline that would have been going through him at the time. Think of him thinking, after all Ellie has done for me, I can't let it just end this way. He'll be just laying on his back. Like, it becomes a lot more believable that he could have mustered up whatever he needed to be able to get up and stab that guy when he came downstairs. If you think about again, like I said, the adrenaline and what all Ellie has done for him. And he's like, I gotta figure out a way to make this happen, because he's also probably concerned that she's not safe, because she told him, like, I'm gonna lead these people away. So if one of the guys in there, he might be thinking, like, what if she's captured? That motivation. And like I said, with the burgeoning father-daughter relationship that we've seen all season, it would make sense. Like, I buy it that he would be able to do that. I kind of didn't at first, but like I thought about it, I'm like, I could see this. But I love how he traps the other guys, like he like setting the traps for them and shit. And then he does the same map thing that he did with the Native American couple. And there's just like, nah, I believe him. And like kills both those guys. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, let's go, Joe. But anyway, let's talk about this episode as a whole, because I've just been talking about the episode title so far and just the concept of how people respond when their loved ones are in need. And I actually want to start with the ending, because I want to talk about why I think it worked so well. So when Ellie and Joel reunite and embrace at the end, you know that feeling of like relief that you had? And I guarantee you fucking had it, because the show has done everything right. That feeling of like, oh, yes, thank you. And then the way your heart warmed when he called her baby girl. Like, think about where we started, okay? Think about those first few episodes when like Tess was still alive. Think about how they progressed. Think about how they fought over Ellie not being his daughter, and like, I'm not Sarah, and all this kind of shit, and him saying he was gonna leave. Just think of their journey. Then think about how this show has subverted expectations the entire time. When I say subverted expectations, I mean this show has had multiple times where they make you think you're about to have a zombie situation and nothing happens. So they gain all of the tension with you, but they don't actually have to deliver on a zombie. But there have been so many times where the show has made you think something was gonna happen and it didn't. And this whole episode, I think, felt like it was building up to Joel saving Ellie just in time. Like, he's gonna bust through the door in the nick of time. They gave you every single reason to believe that was gonna happen. So when he never actually shows up until after she's already saved herself, combined with everything they've dealt with as a pair and how they've grown as a pair collectively during this season, that's why you felt the way that you felt when they reunited at the end. And I thought that was really well done. That's how I say this all the time. You can't go for these big emotional moments if you don't do the work leading up to it. This was the 8th episode. They spent 7 episodes doing the fucking work to make that scene work, and it fucking worked. Because I don't know about you, like, I let out a huge, like when they found each other, I was like, oh, thank God. and think about how different that was. And then also think about if you're one of the people who wasn't on board with Bella Ramsey as Ellie at the start of this season. You thought Ellie was annoying, or Bella Ramsey's not doing the Ellie that I liked in the video game, whatever the case may be. Are you all still like not fucking with Bella Ramsey? Like, I haven't had a problem with her this whole time. I think she's been great. Every time I see her, I think she's great as an actress, no matter what character she's playing. Well, I can't say every time, it's just this time in Game of Thrones. But both times, I thought she was great no matter what her character was doing. Even when her character on Game of Thrones, there was a scene where I thought she was really unreasonable. Even when she was being unreasonable, I'm like, but this character is dope. Like, this actress is doing a great job with this character. And I felt the same way about Ellie. But if you're somebody who didn't fuck with Bella Ramsey's Ellie before this episode, where the fuck you at now? Because, I mean, come on, man. Like, this episode was a great one for Bella Ramsey. And we're going to talk about some more of that in a moment. But, let's talk about the meat of the episode. No pun intended. Let's talk about the meat of the episode, which is the stuff about David. So we meet this guy, David, at the beginning of the episode, and he seems to be like a preacher, a priest, whatever. He's giving a sermon. His little girl starts crying, and we learn that the little girl's father died. And when she asks when they're going to bury the father, David's like, we got to wait till spring because it's too cold right now. The ground is too hard. We can't dig. And I'm like, okay, that's a good reason. Like, that makes sense that you wouldn't be able to bury this girl's father at this time. But we later come to learn that the real reason David isn't going to bury her dad because he plans to saute the motherfucker first and serve him up to everybody. And we see that this community here that David runs, we see they're starving, they're rationing food. We learn that they are pretty much about out. Like, I can't remember the exact numbers that were given, but David and his right-hand man, James, have this conversation that's like, I think he says, like, how much deer do we have left? And he says something like, I can't remember if he said 2 weeks or 2 months if we keep rationing or something like that. But all that was meant to let us know is that they're running short on food. So they decide they're gonna go hunting for deer because they heard that deer have been roaming about. Also in need of food is Ellie, and she goes hunting and finds and kills a deer with the skills that Joel taught her in earlier episodes. So calling back to that. And that's when we learn how close they are to David's compound, because him and James find, is it James or Jason? I think it's James. Him and James find the deer first. Ellie says that she comes upon him with the gun, says that if they bring her medicine for Joel, she doesn't say for Joel, but we know it's for Joel. If they bring her some medicine, they can have half the deer. David agrees, and I love how when he tells Jason or I'm fucking with me now, because like even looking at my notes, sometimes it says Jason and sometimes it says James. I feel fairly certain it's James, but I'm gonna need to look. Because now it's bothering me. Now we want to be calling this motherfucker James this whole time, and to find out his name is Jason. Let's see. I got you. Want to know how I'm gonna look this up real quick? Sometimes when I'm doing research to do these videos to talk to you guys, especially when it comes to like the episode titles, I'll pull up, like if you just Google like the episode plus the word script, so like The Last of Us episode 8 script, you can pull up the script. So I'll like search for certain things that I'm looking for. If I'm looking for something, I'll be like, okay, let me see if that's in the script or whatever, and it can, it can let me know if just in case if I might have missed a line or something. So I got the script. I already had the script up, so I'm just looking at it. Okay, it's James. Cool. All right. Sorry for that brief diversion. So, where was I? Oh, okay. So yes, David agrees to the medicine deal. We'll get you the medicine. We get half the deer. Cool. And he sends James to go do that. And I love how when he tells James to go get the medicine, he's like, I'm not speaking in code. Do what I said. But then both me and James are looking at him like, but is this code right now? Like, I thought the actor who plays David, did a good job in that scene, because even when he was saying this is not code, do as I said, it looked like that was also code. I like how like both me and James are like, is it code or not? Like, is this not code? But while he's gone, him and James, David tries to sell Ellie on joining his community. And he tells her that he can prove that everything happens for a reason. And then he tells her that he sent out 4 guys on a scavenging mission, and one of them was killed by a crazy guy who had a little girl with him. And that's when we come to understand that the guy who stabbed Joel, that Joel ultimately ended up killing, is the father of the little girl from the opening scene that had the father that died. And just as this reveal happens, James returns with a gun on Ellie, but also with the medicine. And they end up giving her the medicine and letting her go. And everyone except me is confused on why David would let her go. And I'm like if you keep Ellie, all you have is Ellie. But if you let her go and she's walking around in the snow, you can easily track her, and now you have Joel, who you actually want, the guy who killed your guy. So I'm like, I don't know why James is confused here. And then sure enough, David's like, yeah, we'll track him in the morning. This should lead us right to Joel. I'm like, how did you not put this together, James? Like, you don't have no, like, I already know by this point, I already knew what kind of guy David was. I'm like, he's not going to just let her go. He's going to find her later. I was so not confused by letting Ellie go that my mind instead immediately went to, well, she just took the medicine and bailed. So does David get the whole deer now? And of course, I'm logging potential plot holes, right, in my mind, like ready to hold the show accountable and wag my finger at it. You fucked up the deer thing. But I do kind of feel like they might have fucked up the deer thing because, well, no, I don't think they didn't fuck it up. I fucked it up. In the next scene, we have this butcher. Well, I don't know if it's the next scene, but it's the next scene in this part of the storyline. We have this butcher guy, and he comes up with this tub of like cubed meat, and this woman is like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Venison." And I'm like, okay, so I guess they did get the whole deer, and maybe the show just skipped ahead to here it is right here, because I'm like, I don't need to see them dragging the deer back and dressing it or undressing it, as Ellie would say. Like, I don't need to see that. He says, okay, here's the venison. I'm like, okay, that must be the deer that Ellie not refused to take, but it didn't end up taking. But then David bursts through the door with the actual fucking deer. And then my dumb ass is still going like, well, what was that cubed meat there? Because I've just figured it was like the last of their deer reserves. Like, because they said they had like 2 weeks or 2 months of deer left. And I'm like, okay, so maybe that was just the last of the deer reserves. And now David just brought in a fresh one. No big deal. But I think we are now meant to understand that was that was human meat. And now I'm just kind of like, but I thought you already said that you had, unless James was lying about how much deer they had left, but like, I thought you said you had more deer and now you eating the people. I don't know. I don't know. But, where was I? Oh, I also liked how they threw that fucking bloody cubed meat in that stew. Like, they ain't rinse it, they ain't season it. And you know how when you get a steak, right? And you get a steak, say you get it medium rare, and you cut into it, and it has a little red dripping out, and then people tell you that's not blood, it's, I don't know, I think it's like some sort of protein that exists in the meat. They tell you like that's not actually blood. So when you say like, oh, my steak's bloody, it's not actually blood. That was fucking blood. Like, they cut that meat right off of a person who was hanging upside down with his head drained. That was fucking blood. And they just dropped it in there. I'm like, man, y'all some real fucking savages, bro. Like, you don't cook it like that. You just go, I don't know, man. You could have cooked it first, maybe, and then put it in the stew. And those are big chunks. Like, that's gonna take forever to, whatever. I like meat, man. Pause. So it's at this point, David's true villainy starts to come to light. The little girl with the dead father says she thinks they should kill Joel and Ellie when they find her, and David slaps the dog shit out of that child and says, bitch, I'm your daddy now. And I said, oh, David is a bad guy. He ain't nice at all. He's not following the Jesus footsteps in any kind of way. So even later, once the search party is off to find Ellie, James suggests that they don't bring her back because he's like, she'd just be an extra mouth to feed. And he's like, maybe it's just God's will for her to die. And David turns around and looks at him like, you saw what I did to the little girl with the dead father. What the fuck you think I'm gonna do to you? Like, he said that in his face. He didn't say it with his mouth, but he said that in his face. And speaking of this scene, it's related to this scene. I talk a lot about how I think the best shows really pay attention to the little things. They do the little things. And I really appreciated Ellie seeing those birds flying away and deducing that people moving through that area is what caused the birds to fly away. Like, I thought that was kind of cool. Because as soon as the birds flew away and she noted it, I'm like, oh, she's going to piece together that they're looking for her. And sure enough, she did. I thought that was really smart of the show. Where am I? All right, so moving on to back to Ellie and Joel. She gives him a knife, like I said at the top. She gives him a knife, and she hops on a horse to lead the guys away that she just saw. James shoots the horse, and it looks like they're about to kill Ellie until David arrives. They take Ellie captive, and they take her into this cage that looks like it's in, like, I don't know, like a basement locker room or like a kitchen or something like that. Well, there's no like. It is pretty much a kitchen. And this is when my goofy ass realized at the very last minute that these motherfuckers are eating people. And that's why they weren't going to bury the little girl's father. I came to this conclusion at the same moment that Ellie did. If you got there when they had the big cubed meat served up, good on you. I explained why I missed that, but good on you. So Bella Ramsey, like I said a moment ago, absolutely crushes this fucking scene, man. And not only is she realizing that they're eating people, but I think David is making a play at making her like his little wife as well. Like, I don't think it was just like, you should join my community. Like, in this, I think it was up to that point, but in this conversation, the one in the in the slaughterhouse, that to me felt like he was making a play for something a lot more than just, you should join our community. And she pretends to be sold on it and touches his hand, and then she breaks his fingers and is like, yo, tell everybody, Ellie is the name of the motherfucker that fucked you up. And I said, okay, all right, Bella, let's go. And just like any old man of God, he calls her cunt in response, right? That's what they do. It's hypocrisy. It's what it is. Once David realizes that he can't have sex with a child, he decides he's going to eat her another way. And he takes her out of the cage, and him and James prepare to chop her up like some green onions. And she reveals her infection after she bites him. And in that moment, I was left to wonder, would he have gotten infected? I don't know. I feel like that's a good question. I don't know if that is covered in the game at all. And if you've played the game, I kind of don't want you to tell me. But I feel like that was I don't want to say a missed opportunity because they needed to have the David character die at the end of this episode. But I don't know. I would like to explore the idea of just how her whole situation works. You know, like we saw that she tried to cure Sam with her blood, because she's thinking like, oh, I'm immune, so maybe I can give him this and it'll cure him. It sounded like a terrible idea to me, and it didn't work, which it shouldn't have. But then I wonder too, like, just because she is immune to turning into a zombie, he ain't. Maybe he could still pass. Maybe she could still pass that on to him. Maybe he would have turned if he had ended up living a little bit longer. And I was kind of curious about that. I would kind of like to know an answer to that. But whatever. It's definitely not a big deal for this episode. But she mentioned that she's infected and she bit him. This causes David to put the meat cleaver down, and Ellie grabs it. She cleaves James. He's done. She escapes. Or she escapes from that room. And then, as I talked about at the top, she sets the place on fire. The meat cleaver, she grabs the meat cleaver just as David is about to rape her, and she chops him into a fine powder, only to be greeted by Joel at the end, along with the end credits, and a wrap to another great episode of this show. I think we are set for. I don't think it would be unreasonable for us to have high as fuck expectations for this finale. Like, I think this finale is going to not just pay off the journey of not the literal journey, but the journey of Ellie and Joel's relationship. I think it's gonna pay that off in some way. I think all of you guys who have been pining for zombie shit, and none of my viewers, like, I don't think any of you guys have been bitching about the lack of zombies. I think you all appreciate the great work this show is doing, but if you are someone who's been yearning for the zombies, I bet they're gonna pay that the fuck off in the finale too. And I just think it's not unreasonable. This is a show that has proven itself to be of the highest quality. This is a showrunner who has proven that he only makes incredible fucking shit. I don't think there's any way we're gonna be disappointed by this finale. I'm looking forward to it. This has been a great season. There is no way this doesn't end up in my top 10 for 2023. I'm not saying it's number one right now. There's not really any competition other than the shitty fucking Mayfair witches, but like, obviously it's number one right now. I don't know if it's gonna stay that way. There's a whole lot of possibilities for things to move around, but it's definitely gonna be in that top 10. I don't think the show's missed yet. I think last week was probably the like I said, I don't even want to say the weakest, the least great episode. But I mean, man, this show, it hasn't missed. I'm loving it. I thought this was another great episode. I thought Bella Ramsey fucking crushed it. I thought the way they did this cannibal storyline was dope. I love the payoff on the Joel and Ellie relationship at the end. The hug, the just natural, visceral reaction of just like, oh, thank God they're back together, getting safe. Like, that was a feeling that, like, it's good to understand that a show has done such a good job that even though it's not real, you still have very real feelings and reactions to it. And I think that's just indicative of the great work they've done here. So I will see you guys next week for the finale. And until then, peace.